Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the Bat Around. I'm your host, Paul Valley. Joining me at around 10:15 will be my former co-host, Ryan Blake, coming to you on a Sunday at 10 a.m. I had some stuff I had to do yesterday, so the show did not go on. Originally, we weren't going to broadcast at all this weekend. And then I realized, well, you know what? Spring training starts on Wednesday. We've got to do a show. We've got to do a spring training preview. And so that's what we're going to do today. Going to kick things off here with Ryan Blake at about 10:15. But first, want to remind you, today's show is brought to you by Royal Farms. And Royal Farms is heating up the grill this winter. You can get any grilled chicken sandwich at your neighborhood Rofo for just $6.99. Plus, it's just $20 for a 12-piece mix of their world-famous chicken. And if you're looking for breakfast, they've got you covered also. For a limited time, combine any breakfast sandwich, perhaps one of their new Southern-style biscuits, plus their baby cake, hash browns, and any size beverage for just $7. And speaking of breakfast beverages, try Rofo's new coffee and cappuccino flavors, mocha and horchata. Get to your neighborhood Royal Farms today for more. All right, spring training starting on Wednesday. Doing a little bit of housekeeping here. The Orioles, they signed Dylan Coleman, former Astros reliever, to a minor league deal yesterday. Dylan Coleman, not a great 2023 or 2024 campaign for that matter. And actually, I think I'm misspeaking here. I think he was, no, not a great 2023 campaign. Only got into one game for Houston in 2024, an inning pitched, a walk, and a strikeout, no runs. But in 2023, 23 games, one start, 8.84 ERA. But if you go back to 20 out of that Houston bullpen, 2.78 ERA in 68 games, 1.6 B WAR. He went 5-2 that year in 68 innings pitched. He had 71 strikeouts, 37 walks out walk count, a little bit higher than you would like. And his career numbers for walks, 5.6 walks per nine compared to 9.6 strikeouts per nine. So not great when you consider the walk numbers there and the fact that he was, it seems as though he was probably hurt a good bit of last year. And in 2023, he was not effective in 23 games for the Kansas City Royals. But this is a guy who had a great bit of success for the Kansas City Royals in 2022. So, it could be something for the Orioles. He's going to be some minor league depth for the team. But it's a minor league deal, so no skin off their back. I'm not even sure if he's part of the 40-man roster. Let's take a look here. It doesn't even have him listed on this page as no, he is part of the 40-man roster. Is part of the 40-man roster because the Orioles designated Das Cameron for assignment to make room for Dylan Coleman. So he will be on the 40-man roster, which gives, with an invite to spring training, which gives the Orioles a little bit more bullpen depth, some minor league depth. So something to maybe get your hopes up a little bit about there for the Orioles, as he could be somebody who could factor in for them. And you know that he will. They like fluidity out of that bullpen. Who doesn't? So Dylan Coleman, now a Baltimore Oriole with an invite to spring training, signing on a minor league deal. As we said to start the show off, or as I said to start the show off, spring training begins on Wednesday. Orioles pitchers and catchers report to Sarasota. A lot of storylines for the Orioles this spring. You're looking at the rotation. Is it good enough? Is it deep enough? Are they done adding to it? For the bullpen, did they do enough? Is there a contingency plan for Felix Bautista? We've had Zach Moore on the show quite a bit, and he seems to think there's not. And I agree with him. He thinks that the Orioles needed to add somebody with legitimate closing experience, so that if Felix Bautista isn't the mountain when he gets into the regular season, you have somebody who can come in and fill a role for you if he's not quite back to who you need him to be. Now, look, it's been, by the time the regular season starts, it will have been almost 18 months since his Tommy John surgery had in October of 2023. So you would like to believe that 18 months is plenty of time for him to get back where he needs to be. I mean, we saw with John Means, it took him about 18 months to come back, and that was with a setback. And he came back. He made 4 starts in September of 23 with like a 2.63 ERA. So, and he ended up having to have Tommy John surgery again. So maybe that's not the greatest comparison there for Felix Bautista, but you're hoping that 18 months is plenty of time for him to shake off the cobwebs, shake off a little bit of rust. They're going to ramp him up slowly in spring training with the hopes that he's ready to go on opening day. But did the Orioles do their due diligence in putting together this bullpen for 2025? Are they prepared for if and when Felix Bautista isn't the mountain? We'll talk about that a little bit here later on in the show when Ryan Blake joins us. The Orioles starting lineup, can they replace Anthony Santander's production in the aggregate? Because they're going to have to. Nobody in that lineup except for Gunnar, potentially, is hitting 44 home runs this year. Can the additions of Tyler O'Neill and Gary Sanchez and the maturation of Heston Kjerstad and Coby Mayo and Jackson Holiday, Gunnar Henderson taking another step forward, Colton Cowser bringing that wall in for guys like Jordan Westberg and Ryan Mountcastle. Can they replace Anthony Santander's production in the aggregate to steal something from Moneyball there? Can the Orioles correct their abysmal showing of runners in scoring position last season? Who hits third for this team? And then also, finally, biggest question marks for the lineup, for the roster: Jackson Holiday, Heston Kjerstad, Coby Mayo, Adley Rutschman. Are these guys ready to take on the rigors of a 162-game schedule? Are they ready to hit the ground running coming out of spring training? We're going to have all eyes on these four guys to see how their springs look as the Orioles look to bounce back from that terrible October showing from 2024 and move forward, get back to the playoffs, and maybe win a game and win a series and get to a championship series this year. Would be nice. We haven't been to a championship series this will be 11 years since the Orioles' last American League Championship Series, and we are now at 42 years since they last went to a World Series. So something's got to give here. The Orioles, looking to bounce back. Did they just do enough overall for this team to bounce back from last year, get back to being that dominant team that they were for the previous year and a half? We're really, from the start of 2023 through June of 2024, this team was arguably the best team in baseball, and then they completely fell off a cliff, playing just 500 baseball in the second half of the season last year. So we're going to see, it's just starting in 3 days, what this team looks like. Bracing ourselves, because if you remember last year, the first day of spring training, we heard that John Means was a month behind all the other starting pitchers in his offseason workouts. And we learned that Kyle Bradish had a partial tear in his UCL, and that they were going to slow play him. He didn't come back till May. He looked even better than he did in 2023, coming back in 2024, and then tries to ramp it up to 99 miles an hour against the Philadelphia Phillies, and then tears his UCL and needs Tommy John surgery. Are the Orioles going to get him back in the second half? Is he going to be more than just a September cup of coffee for them? Same thing with Tyler Wells. Lots of things coming up in spring training and in this 2025 season. Me personally, not sure they did enough to become a legitimate contender. They're a legitimate playoff contender. I think they'll get back to the postseason this year. But we've been to the postseason. We've been there 2 years in a row. This team, they made the playoffs 3 years out of 5 from 2012 to 2017, or from 2012 to 2016. Is this team good enough to get to a World Series, to finally get over that hump that they've been trying to get over for the last 4+ decades? That remains to be seen. We will certainly see. However, it won't be for lack of outfield depth. The Orioles inked Laser Ramon Laureano to a $4 million deal for 2025 with a $6.5 million option for 2026. They now have 6 outfielders on their 40-man roster, and all of them legitimate big league experience or legitimate grips to be on the big league roster. You have Colton Cowser, Cedric Mullins, Tyler O'Neill, Heston Kjerstad, Dylan Carlson, Ramon Laureano, and that's before you even discuss Jorge Mateo and Ryan O'Hearn. A lot of us think that a trade may be looming, but that was 5-6 days ago that Laureano signed. There still might be a trade. Right now, it looks like this is who's going to Sarasota with the team, with a big competition for a bench spot between Kjerstad, Carlson, and Laureano. I don't think that the Orioles give Laureano $4 million with a $6.5 million option if they don't plan on him being part of this big league roster to start the season. I think he's your 4th outfielder. He can play all 3 outfield positions and play them well. Legitimate defender with a cannon for an arm. Look, Colton Cowser, Cedric Mullins, and Dylan Carlson are your 3 starting outfielders. That's who is your everyday outfield. But Laureano can spell each one of them, and he can really improve from the throwing standpoint the Orioles defense in center field. Nobody's going to play better defense in center field than Cedric Mullins. That's just not going to happen. However, the cannon of an arm will certainly be nice. He can perhaps prevent some of these guys from scoring from second base every time on a base hit to center field. So I like the move for Laureano. I'm not sure I understand having 6 guys on the big league, on the 40-man roster. But we're going to see what happens here. I think Heston Kjerstad has the inside track for an everyday role between right field and designated hitter. And I think that Dylan Carlson is just minor league depth. He's got a long way to go to prove that he's a player that finished third in Rookie of the Year voting in 2021. So we're going to see how this roster shakes up. It all gets started here in just a few days. While we wait for Ryan Blake to jump in, wanted to remind everybody that today's show brought to you by Help My Gambling Problem. If you or a loved one has a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. That's 1-800-GAMBLER or helpmygamblingproblem.org for free confidential services. So like I said, a lot of question marks going into spring training. At the Birdland Caravan last weekend, Mike Elias, the first day on Thursday, he discussed the rotation. And even though you look at this Orioles rotation, it's Zach Eflin, Grayson Rodriguez, Charlie Morton, Dean Kramer, Sugano. I can never remember. Tomoyuki Sugano, I believe is his name, Tomoyuki Sugano. Then you have Albert Suarez, Cade Povich, Chase McDermott. McDermott, I think, is minor league depth right now. Suarez, I think, is ticketed for the bullpen. Cade Povich. Look, we didn't even mention Trevor Rogers, right? And the Orioles traded 2 of their better prospects, not their best prospects, but 2 of their better prospects to get Trevor Rogers. The Orioles right now, if they're going with the 5 that we think it's going to be, they don't have a lefty in their rotation. So is it going to be Cade Povich? Is it going to be Trevor Rogers? Right now, it looks like Norfolk's going to have a hell of a starting rotation with Povich, Rogers, and McDermott leading the way there. But look, you have a ballpark that is really great for facing right-handed batters, even with moving that ball back in a little bit. Are you going to have anybody that's left-handed in your rotation? You've got, what is it? You've got 1, 2, 3. You've got 3 lefties in your bullpen right now, and it could be 4 if Povich makes this roster or Trevor Rogers makes this roster. Do you have, and that's great for your bullpen, do you have enough lefties in your rotation? But there's also the argument there that, yeah, you have all these right-handed pitchers, so teams are going to stack their lineup with left-handed pitching. If the right-handed pitchers get you through the 5th inning, now you've got 3, potentially 4 lefties to come in and face those left-handed hitters, a left-handed heavy lineup. Then you're really having the bullpen do work for your rotation to make things look a lot better for your starting rotation, which might not be a terrible game plan. I still think you need to have a lefty in your starting rotation, but we're going to see. The question is this rotation good enough? Is it deep enough? And are they done adding to it? You have 6 outfielders on your 40-man roster, and you can make a legitimate case for every single one of them to be on the 26-man active roster. Cowser, Mullins, and O'Neill are going to be there. Who's your 4th outfielder? We think that Heston Kjerstad is going to split time between right field and DH for this team. A lot of people griping about Kjerstad's defense and how bad it is. He's got, they said when he got drafted that he has the arm and the glove to stick in right field. Put him in right field. Let's try him out there all spring training and see what it looks like out there. The problem is he wasn't playing enough to get comfortable out there for the Orioles. And look, you can talk to me all you want about, well, he played right field every day for the Norfolk Tides. Yeah, but you talk to anybody that plays outfield in the big leagues, you're going to a 2-3 tier stadium from a 1 to 2 tier stadium. That third deck in a big league stadium, it messes with your eyes when you're out there tracking fly balls. Not to mention what minor league stadium is designed the way that Camden Yards is, the way that any big league stadium is designed. And with that in mind, here is Ryan Blake joining us. Ryan, good morning. Great to see you, man. How are you?
I'm doing well, Paul. How's it going over there?
It's going well, man. It's going well. I love the backdrop that you've got there. I've got my own cool little backdrop here, but you've got the Blake jerseys behind you with your favorite number 11. I think that's really cool. Well done.
Thanks, man. Yeah, this one is a game-worn Jeff Blake jersey. My cousin happened upon it and sent it my way. I put it in a frame, and then I remembered that years ago I got a custom Orioles jersey, so I figured I'd frame them and put them up next to each other.
I think that Jeff Blake game worn jersey is worth more to you and Jeff Blake than anybody else in the world.
I would say so. I was looking online for like several years, just kind of passively. I'd hop on eBay every couple weeks just to see if someone was selling one. And then my cousin called me while I was on the golf course, and he's like, "Hey, I just found a Jeff Blake game worn jersey. Do you want it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude, please. That'd be awesome."
How much? He said he found it. Did he give it to you? Did you have to pay for it?
So he gave it to me. He's got some money. He married into the family. He's got his own business that's doing well. So he has all kinds of different memorabilia. He's got those Mike Tyson signed gloves and all of that kind of stuff. So he's got connections who have all different types of memorabilia. And I guess someone offered it to him because he knew he married a Blake, and he figured it'd be more fun on my wall than at his house.
Oh, that's cool, man. And are you rocking a new hairstyle right now? Are you going with like the gunner mullet here?
A little bit of a mullet. I tried to clean up the sides because they were getting a little crazy, letting it go a little bit in the back. I'm just testing it out. It's been a couple weeks.
You know what though, man? I think you should go with it, man. I think it's just gonna be good vibes for the Orioles this year. Just good vibes.
I'm hoping so. That's the idea.
Lots of mullets and mustaches, man. A little Eminem action going on.
Yep.
Lose yourself. All right, so we're talking about the Orioles rotation. We're talking about the outfielders that were added. Right, the Orioles added Laser Ramon Laureano to their roster last weekend. I believe it was last Sunday or Monday when they added him to the roster. This is maybe a week after they signed Dylan Carlson. They've got 6 outfielders on their 40-man roster, all of them with legitimate gripes to be on the big league roster. They're not going to carry 6 outfielders, especially when you think about the fact that they have Ryan O'Hearn, and whenever Jorge Mateo comes back, and maybe this addition of Laureano is because Mateo still isn't able to come back from that elbow surgery that he had. And look, it's his lead arm when he's batting, right? So I've hurt, like, hyperextended my left elbow in the past, and you try swinging a baseball bat and you make wonky contact, it's not comfortable for that elbow. It's actually pretty painful. Maybe that's what he's experiencing there. Nothing quite like the Ryan Blake Cats making an appearance, or at least a noise appearance on the show.
When they jump on top of the snake tanks, I'm like, all right, come on, don't be up there.
I wonder who would win in a fight between the Cats and the snake. Let's hope we never find out.
I hope not.
So do you think that this is it just more depth for this team? Is it a legitimate 4th outfielder that can replace anybody in the outfield at any given time, give these guys a blow so that they don't wear out and get hurt over the course of the season? Is it for more minor league depth, or do the Orioles have a trade in the works? If you read Rockabaco's blog post from yesterday, he seems to think that the Orioles have a trade coming. I'm not so sure about that.
It certainly feels that way to an extent when you've got so many guys who, like you said, have a legitimate case to play on the big league roster. And they go out and sign Tyler O'Neill, and he was a big need, and I was a huge fan of that signing. A right-handed hitting outfielder who crushes lefties. That's an important piece of this lineup. I think he's a perfectly adequate replacement for Anthony Santander. And you go out and get Dylan Carlson, who was a one-time top 15 at least prospect, and never really materialized. He had a decent rookie season, but then he hasn't been able to hit his weight lately. But he's a decent defensive outfielder. He's got some speed, and he hits left-handed pitching very well, which, again, that fills that need. He does have options, though, which leads me to think that, if you option him to AAA, have him start the season there and be available in case of emergency, then Laureano's your 5th guy, another guy who hits lefties really well, another right-handed hitting outfielder who plays exceptional defense, has an absolute cannon for an arm. So I think it's kind of an embarrassment of riches at this point. They did I think DFA Daz Cameron, who was another guy who could potentially be thrown in the mix, but he's now out of the picture for the time being. So I think it's just a matter of depth and making sure that if something happens and, Cedric Mullins or Colton Cowser gets hurt, then you've got guys available to help balance out the lineup and, solidify the outfield defense. I think that's really what it is more than anything.
And then you look at what Laureano did, and I'm going to pull up his numbers here real quick. What he did last year when the Braves called him up after I believe they claimed him. But for the Braves last year in 67 games, he slashed 296, 327, 505, 832. He had a 128 OPS plus, 10 home runs, 13 doubles, 29 RBIs in just 216 at bats, 226 plate appearances. If that's the dude that they got, and we're talking about a guy who back in 2019 hit 24 homers and hit 288 and 860 OPS. If that's the guy that they got, then that's an awesome signing for this team. If he's the guy who struggled to hit 230 for 3 out of 4 seasons, from 2020 to 2023, then you're probably looking at somebody who might be minor league depth. Now, look, this is a $4 million signing with a $6.5 million option for 2026. He's going to be on the big league roster. That's your fourth outfielder right there. So the Orioles rotation, the whole reason bringing this up is because of this rotation. Right now, Michael I said that they're going to be a 5-man rotation. Zach Eflin, Grayson Rodriguez, Charlie Morton, Dean Kramer, and Sagano. Tomoyuki Sagano. That's his first name, Tomoyuki.
I think so.
Yeah, it's I gotta ingrain it. It's like learning how to spell Asher Wojciechowski.
Right.
I've got to ingrain his name into my brain. Right. But that was a lot of ingrain his name into my brain.
Yeah.
But that's your 5-man rotation right now. When you're looking at this, that is your 5-man rotation. Then you have Trevor Rogers, Albert Suarez, Kate Povich, and Chase McDermott at the minor league level. One of those guys is going to be in your bullpen. Do the Orioles, are they good with this 5-man rotation? Is it good enough? Is it deep enough? Are they done adding to it? Look, we heard that over this weekend that in Dylan Cease talks, the Padres asked about Coby Mayo, Heston Kjerstad, and Jordan Westbrook. And
Basayo.
No, it was Basayo, not Kjerstad.
Yeah.
Samuel Basayo, Coby Mayo, Jordan Westbrook, and Michael Ice basically hung up the phone. At least I would have if I were him. So I don't know that the Padres are going to be dealing Dylan Cease to this team, and I certainly don't want to trade anybody for a 1-year rental, even if it's Heston Kjerstad. A lot of people seem to think that he's on his way out. Are the Orioles going to add to this rotation? Is the rotation as it currently stands good enough for them to compete in the American League East? They don't have a lefty in the rotation. Can Trevor Rogers force his way into the conversation? Right now, I don't see anybody that's not coming over in a trade as forcing their way into the starting rotation that they already have in the system.
Yeah, and it's also important to remember that you expect Kyle Bradish to be back at some point, so that'll certainly help.
But you?
Man, what's that?
Do you? Because we're talking about it's a slow ramp up for Felix Bautista, who's 18 months removed from Tommy John surgery. John Means took 18 months to come back from Tommy John surgery and ended up needing to have a second Tommy John surgery. Kyle Bradish will be coming back 14 months after that, or maybe, I'm sorry, they're expecting him to come back 13, 14 months after Tommy John surgery and beat Kyle Bradish. I don't know that you can expect that.
That's fair. I didn't think about the timeline as hard as I should have. But yeah, look, I don't hate the rotation. It certainly on paper doesn't strike a ton of confidence. It kind of feels like, a few years ago, and it's kind of been the story until last year when we go into spring training expecting to have the best rotation in baseball with Burns, Bradish, Rodriguez, Means, and Wells or Kramer, some combination of those guys. Aside from that, it feels like every year we've gone into the season with our opinion of the rotation is it could be good if all of these things go right. And that's kind of how I'm feeling. I mean, Charlie Morton's 41 years old. And he's been solid, but you need him to be at least Kyle Gibson solid if you want to make a run at a championship. Shigano, he's never pitched in the majors before. You expect that, he's got a good track record in Japan, but you don't know how that's but you don't know how that's going to translate. Dean Kramer, can he continue to get better? I don't know. Maybe we might have seen the best of Dean Kramer. And then you know what you're getting with Zach Eflin. He's going to be a solid number 2, but you're expecting Grayson Rodriguez to take that step forward and be the ace of this team. And yeah, he absolutely could. I think there's the possibility there, but he's got a history of shoulder issues. We've seen at his best, he's very, very good, but is he going to be at his best for a full season and be that ace? We don't know. So the rotation has the capability to be very good. It also, if they don't exceed their expectations or what we think they're capable of, it could be a pretty bad rotation.
Yeah.
Especially if Trevor Rogers isn't able to step in and be a guy. especially if Cade Povich continues to struggle with walks and inability to get guys out, especially if Chase McDermott's not quite ready for the show, especially if Albert Suarez was kind of a flash in the pan last year. There's a lot of question marks, and I certainly hope that they're not done adding to it. But unless you're, I mean, who's out there on the trade market that isn't a rental?
Mm-hmm.
You know,
mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at maybe a Michael King, but we already know that the Padres ask for their starters is through the roof. So it's tough to say. Now, it was around this time last year that the Orioles made a splash and traded for Corbin Burns. I don't think anybody saw that coming. Mm-hmm. So it's certainly possible. But as it stands now, it's kind of what we've been saying for years, that, yeah, they could be good, but they could also be pretty bad.
Yeah. I mean, and you look at this, look at the entire rotation. Let's start with Charlie Morton. Yeah, he's posted up. I think he's gone 30+ starts 8 years in a row, or 7 consecutive years in a row when you aren't counting the 2020 truncated season. All right, then you're looking at Zach Eflin, 9-year career. He's made 28+ starts 3 times. Grayson Rodriguez, he's entering his 3rd season, and in 2 of his last 3 years, when you include his minor league campaign in 2022, he's missed significant time with lat strains. Dean Kramer has missed significant time, at least a month, 2 of the last 3 years. And then Sagano, he's never pitched at the big league level. You're expecting Charlie Morton at 41 years old to be able to go out there and make 30+ starts. I think that's a big ask for a 41-year-old. Just because he's done it before, he's never pitched at the age of 41 years old. You saw what happened with Max Scherzer and Justin Verlander, who are far and away better pitchers than Charlie Morton over the course of their careers. They hit their 40s, and the next thing you know, they're both injured most of last season, right? So can you when Morton's out there, he could be damn good, but can you really expect a 41-year-old to still give you 30+ starts and 170+ innings? Is that realistic? And then we talked about the other injury issues for the rest of the rotation. I think it's a dangerous game to play going into this season with all these question marks for this rotation. Now, look, here's the thing. I posted this on X the other day. You have 5 guys in your rotation who legitimately could give you a 3.5 ERA or a 4.5 ERA. If they're giving you a 4.5 ERA, it's going to be a long season. And then you look at the bullpen. Before we get into the bullpen, today's show brought to you by Glenn Clark Radio. If you missed anything from Glenn Clark Radio this week, including conversations with Rick Dempsey, Maryland legend Walt Williams, and ESPN bracketologist Joe Lunardi, find them all now in the Glenn Clark Radio Week in Review feature at PressBoxOnline.com. And as always, watch or listen to GCR every Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. at PressBoxOnline.com/radio, or right here on Facebook and YouTube. You look at this bullpen, Ryan. The bullpen is only going to be as strong as this starting rotation, and this starting rotation is only going to be as strong as this bullpen. Because did they do enough? Now, look, they just added Dylan Coleman, who is a couple of years removed from having a 2.78 ERA in 68 games coming in and relief from the Kansas City Royals. 2022, 2023 and 23 games, he had over an 8.30 ERA. This is a guy who walks a ton of guys, 4.9 walks per 9 in that 2022 season, where he was really good otherwise, good for a 1.6 B-WAR. Minor league signing, he could provide depth for this team. He will play a factor at some point for the Orioles. He will get his look at the big league level. They added Andrew Kittredge, and you look at a bullpen that has Cianel Perez, Gregory Soto, Sir Anthony Dominguez, Andrew Kittredge, Keegan Aiken, Yennier Cano. You've added Dylan Coleman, and then Felix Bautista. Look, if he's the mountain, then yeah, this bullpen looks really good. But what if he's not? Hasn't pitched in game action in over 18 months, and it's a slow ramp up. We already know he's not full go to start spring training. If Felix Bautista comes in and he's only topping out at 98 miles an hour, which is fast, but not nearly as fast as 103, which is what he was throwing before the surgery, they don't have a contingency plan. You can't convince me that Sir Anthony Dominguez as your closer is a good contingency plan for Felix Bautista. What do the Orioles do if he's not ready to go?
Hope for next year. I don't want to say that, but like he's the guy, and we're expecting Bautista to come back and be Felix Bautista, and we just don't know if that is conceivable for this season, right? But obviously having him at your disposal, even if he is only throwing 98, 99, he's still got that splitter. God willing, I don't know. Hopefully he does. I guess we don't know for sure one way or the other, but we expect that he's going to be the guy. And if he's not, then you kind of have to piece it together. And I'm a big fan of the Andrew Kittredge signing. I think he's going to help, solidify the back end of the bullpen. But you're expecting Sir Anthony Dominguez and Gregory Soto I believe they've both been all-stars in years past. I know Soto has, but you're expecting them to return to that form. And we've noticed this trend a lot with Orioles signings, both pitching and offense. You're hoping that guys are able to revert to what they were 3, 4, 5 years ago. And that's a big risk to take. And so if you lose the all-star closer in Felix Bautista, or if he's not quite the all-star closer that you expect from him, then you're going to need a Kittredge or a Dominguez or a Soto to step up and be that guy. You don't have Danny Coulomb anymore. He was your veteran presence out there. Not to say that guys like Aiken and Perez aren't veterans, because they certainly are, but and then you hope that Yanier Cano is closer to the 2022 version of himself, or the 2023 version of himself, than the 2024 version. Not that he was bad last year, but he wasn't quite the same. So you've got the pieces, and it's the same thing with the rotation. You've got the pieces that are capable of being good. Cionel Perez had a dominant season just a couple years ago. But last year there were calls to get him off the team, and then he figured it out a little bit, and he was fine, right? But there's so many guys that, again, you want the best from them, but you don't know if you're going to get it. And if you don't get the best from them, you might be SOL.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, Sir Anthony Dominguez never been an all-star, but he's had some really great seasons. Has 16 saves as a rookie for the Phillies. I think it was 2018. Had like a 2.95 ERA. Not great last year. Gregory Soto, he had back-to-back all-star campaigns in 2021 and 2022. In 2022, he 2-11. Yeah, he had 11 losses, but a 3.28 ERA, and he had 30 saves. Maybe he's your contingency plan. As a closer look at it. For the Orioles last year, 5.09 ERA, but when you look at what he did over the course of his last, he was really bad to start, which kind of blew up his ERA for the Orioles. But if you look at what he did for this team, basically from when did he get here? If you look at what he did for the month of September, his ERA, if this would pop up for me. Baseball Reference always does this. It takes a second for the stuff to pop up, but I think he only allowed 2 earned runs. Yeah, he had a 2 ERA in 12 games over 9 innings pitched for the month of September. So 286 batting average, you don't like that, but he looked like he was much improved after coming here and all the warts that he had, where he gave up 8 runs in 2 of his first 3 outings. Really, really good. And actually, if you look at that, after his he gave up 4 runs in his first game with the Orioles, which was on August 2nd. Then 2 games later on August 6th, 4 runs. But if you look at him from August 8th to the end of the season, he had a 1.10 ERA. 20 games, 16 and 30 innings pitched, 1.10 ERA. If they got a guy who's close to that dude, that's a solid contingency plan for this team. But again, how often will we see him come in and we got super nervous? Now again, because of those first 3 games here, we got super nervous, but we're counting on this guy to now be somebody who is a dependable, high leverage arm for you at the back end of your bullpen in close games. Same thing with Sir Anthony Dominguez, where he had 10 saves, but how many home runs did he give up? How many times did he come in there? 2 games against the Mets in that 3-game series, the 2 games they lost, he gave up walk-off home runs. That scares the crap out of you. This bullpen could be really good or it could be mediocre. The bullpen was awful the second half last year, especially after Danny Coulomb and Jacob Webb went down. They're both not here anymore. I feel like they needed one more arm for this bullpen. I don't like the fact that Coleman could be nice if he gets back to that 2022 form, but the walk scared the crap out of me. And now it's like, are they going to trade for him? Is Helsley? Is he still on their team?
Ryan Helsley, Cardinals? I believe he would be a rental, but depending on the asking price, I'd be fully on board with Ryan Helsley. That's a good contingency plan in case Felix Bautista isn't your guy.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe the Orioles are looking to make a trade based off of that. Based off maybe we're going to go get a high level reliever. Maybe they're looking to package Coby Mayo with as a centerpiece, send him to the Athletics to get a Mason Miller. We just don't know what their plan is here. And it all comes back to, did they do enough this offseason? The Orioles are going to be good. They're going to be a good team. How good are they? World Series good? I don't know that they are. You know, Texas has a really good roster. The Yankees have a solid roster. It's older, but it's solid. You know, the Boston did a lot. Cleveland has that nasty bullpen. You know, Kansas City's up and coming. The Tigers are up and coming. Are you going to be able to get over the hump and get past those teams? Are you better than those teams? The Orioles have more talent than they have potentially more young talent than any team in the American League. The American League looks to be fairly down this year as compared to years past. But is that talent all going to realize their potential this year? There's a lot of big ifs and buts when it comes to this team. You're counting on a lot of guys to take a step forward. And when you're talking about that, you've got some huge question marks with those guys looking to take a step forward. Jackson Holliday, Heston Kjerstad, Coby Mayo, Adley Rutschman needs to take a big step forward. As Adley goes, this team goes. Before we get into that, today's show brought to you by Pressbox's latest print edition. Pressbox's annual best of issue is only available for a few more days. On the cover, we celebrate our Mo Gaba Sports Person of the Year honoree, Lamar Jackson, who got robbed for the MVP. And inside, a collection of the top people, performances, and moments of the year in local sports. You can find the best of issue all throughout the region, including at 60 Royal Farm stores, and you can read it all right now at PressBoxOnline.com. And a new baseball-themed edition of PressBox is coming next week. You will want to make sure you go and pick up that edition as spring training starts on Wednesday. Let's get into these question marks, all right? Jackson Holliday. We all saw the video last week of him. They were doing an exit velocity video to see who could have the highest exit velocity. I don't know who that Asian guy was. He had 98 miles an hour off the tee. Then you saw Ethan Holliday hit 100 off the tee, Matt Holliday 101, and then Jackson comes up 110 exit velocity off the tee, which is just bananas. It's absolute bananas. If you ever tried to hit off the tee, 110 miles an hour off of a tee, that is incredible strength. And it means absolutely nothing, aside from the fact that he's got a good, tight, compact swing and he's crazy strong. Look, we look at Jackson Holliday, hit 188 last year, coming up from the minor leagues as a 20-year-old, making his big league debut. We saw this guy, his work ethic took him from a fringe first-round pick coming out of high school to a number one overall pick in the draft. He had a solid spring last year. So how much does a solid spring matter this year? What are we looking for from Jackson Holliday in spring training to prove that he is the guy to play every day at second base? He's going to get that opportunity because Jorge Mateo is not going to be ready for opening day. So it's Jackson Holliday's position to start. And he's going to play every day against righties. You're not going to replace him with Ramon Arias because he's got reverse splits batting from the right side. So Jackson Holliday is potentially looking at everyday playing time coming out of spring training to start the year. How important is a strong showing, and how strong does that showing need to be for Jackson Holliday in spring training?
You know, I think I said this last year. I try not to put a ton of stock into spring training results in terms of statistics. I learned that when Jake Fox hit 10 home runs in the Grapefruit League. Look, and again, this is what I said last year. The spring training stats, when they're good, it means something, and when they're not, it doesn't. You know, it's like when they're not great, it's like, all right, well, he was probably working on something. When they're good, it's like, oh yeah, he's got it figured out. I think it's a confidence thing for Holliday more than anything, and I think April is going to matter more than February and March. Look, he's going to be on the roster. We know this. He could hit 200 in spring training, and he's going to be on the roster. And Bean agrees. She's finally off of the snake tank. I think he's got to come out swinging. He's got to come out strong to start the year. Please do not walk on my computer. Thank you very much. Because if he comes out and he hits 270 in April with a 360 on base percentage and a handful of home runs, that's huge for your confidence going forward. And that's how you know that even if I go through, a bit of an extended slump, if I go through a 3 for 32 stretch in May or in June, look, I still showed that I was able to do this, right? Now, Holiday had a really good, week and a half, but aside from that, it wasn't pretty. So he's got to put together a good month of baseball to really know, like, hey, I deserve to be here and I'm capable of this. Now, you expect him to compete for rookie of the. Is he even rookie eligible? I don't know if he had enough service time.
No,
Okay.
he's not.
Well,
He's not.
MVP then. You know, look, he's got to be a dude, and we expected that last year, and he was for a few games, but aside from that, he wasn't. This year, he's got to put together a string of consistency, and I think he will. I think he's capable of it. Now, hitting 110 off a tee leads you to believe that we know he's got the tools. He's one of the toolsiest guys on the team. But being able to put it together, being able to find his pitch, is going to be huge for him, and I think he can take a massive step forward. And I feel the same way about Colton Cowser. I know a lot of us thought that Cowser should have won Rookie of the Year over Luis Heel. There's certainly an argument for that. But Cowser had some extended stretches, like really extended stretches, where he wasn't seeing the ball well. But I think it's really just a couple things. He's got to learn how to identify the changeup, especially when it's down in the zone. And he's got to be able to wait for the fastball. And we've seen when he's able to wait and get that fastball, that's when he's dominant. And I really think that if Cowser is able to figure that out, whether it's mentally or vision-wise, if he can identify when that low changeup is coming, I think he's going to be really, really dangerous this year. But those are the two guys I really have my eye on.
You look at Jackson Holiday. His last 8 games, he hit 389/389, 522, 444, 966 OPS. He had as many walks as strikeouts, 5 walks to 5 strikeouts. And that was after he got rid of that big late kick, right? And so what we've known about Jackson Holiday is he's got that elite eye at the plate. When he's walking as much, if not more than he strikes out, he's a difference maker for a team. I'm expecting that it's only 8 games, but it was 8 games to end the year for him. And he's got elite sprint speed. He's only behind Jorge Mateo on the roster for sprint speed. I'm expecting the Holiday to take a big step forward. I'm thinking a 260, 340 type of season for Jackson Holiday. And if he can do that, I mean, look out. It's going to be a thing of beauty watching him hit line drives into the left center field. I'm super excited for what he's going to do. Heston Kjerstad, I know you got to run here in a couple of minutes. So I want to try to get through these. Heston Kjerstad, he might be the biggest X factor in replacing Santander's production. He was one of the Orioles' better hitters for a 3-week stretch before he took that 97-mile-an-hour fastball off the back of the head. Do we think there's any lingering effects from the concussion? This is his opportunity to season everyday role. Does he need to fare better against left-handed pitching? And does he need a big sprint more than anybody?
Yeah, I think he does. The issue is, I think there are always going to be lingering effects from that concussion. We've seen guys take pitches to the head and never be the same again. And that's my fear with Kjerstad. That's my only fear with Kjerstad. I think if he's playing every day, he's a 40-homer guy, easily.
That's a lot of home runs, man. I'd say
30's fair. 40? But he's got the pop to hit 40. If he's legitimately, if he's got 610 at-bats in a season, he's hitting 40 home runs in my mind. But yeah, he needs a huge spring. Just to show himself that he's still able to stand in there and, not have to duck out of the way of anything that's up and in, right? Because that can traumatize you. It's especially when it leads to a concussion, and then you think you're coming back from a concussion, and then you've got more effects. You have to go back on the concussion injured list. That's a problem, right? But if he can stand in there and swat some homers like we know he's capable of, I think he's going to be just fine. And I think the combination of Kjerstad and Tyler O'Neill, because one of those two is going to be in the lineup on any given day. I think that combination, especially with Kjerstad's prowess against righties and O'Neill's against lefties, I think I think that's better than Santander. And
that's why I'm not looking to trade Heston Kjerstad. He's 26 years old. I think he's got more value to the Orioles than he does to being on their roster than he does as a trade piece. And I look at him as somebody, if he gets 500 bats, he's going to hit 30 home runs. And I expect it. But when I think about what this team can do if everybody plays to their potential or even 80% of their potential, it gets me excited. But we have to see them do it. And that brings me to Adley Rutschman. Last point before we let you get out of here. Was he hurt or just out of shape last year? Does this lineup go as Adley goes? Who hits second if he's more of a second half player than the first
Ooh,
half?
who hits second? Well, okay, there's some moving pieces that could impact that. Does Jackson Holliday turn into a leadoff hitter? We don't know. If Holliday's
Yeah,
hitting leadoff,
I
I
expect him
expect him
to.
to as
I
well. Not
expect
at the
him to.
beginning of the season, but I think he'll play his way into that, conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think if he's your leadoff hitter, I think you put Gunnar at 2. I understand the idea that, oftentimes you want your best hitter hitting third, more RBI situations and the like. I'm a strong advocate of put your best guys in a position to get as many plate appearances as possible over the course of a season. I don't want Gunnar any lower than 2 personally. So I think if you have to shuffle the lineup and you put Jackson at the top, I think Gunner's your number 2 hitter. But ideally, you got Gunnar at 1, Adley at 2, and then if Holliday plays his way into that position, you figure out the top 3 in some order, right?
I could see Jordan
I
Westburg
could
being a
I could
free
see
agent
that as
for
well.
this team.
I definitely could.
Mhm.
Um, Honestly, even Cowser, if he's on an extended hot streak, he had some leadoff opportunities last year. I could see him hitting top 3 in the lineup. He did hit cleanup a decent bit last year. But yeah, look,
Yeah.
Adley Rutschman, we've seen what he can do, right? And we also saw last year he took a pitch off the hand, he took a foul ball off the wrist, or vice versa, and he wasn't the same after that. And I really do think that impacts your play. And so he's not going to come
Mm-hmm.
out and say he was hurt and that's why he struggled. But I really do think that was the case. And I'm fully expecting Adley Rutschman to come out and be a top 3, if not top 1 catcher in baseball this year.
Yeah, I fully expect him to come back, bounce back. If he's healthy, and because he even said at the Birdland Caravan, I think he let it slip. He's like, I've had a great off season. I'm healthy. Like, I don't think he was saying I'm healthy as in, I'm still healthy. I think he was saying I'm healthy as in we all know that he was hurt. Except, unless you're Tom Latham, if you don't know who Tom Latham is, he's a buddy of ours on X, and he seems to think that Adley just sucks. But I think that it was clear as day that Adley was hurt the second half of the season. From June 18th on, the drop off was immediate, and it was staggering. He showed to be a player that he's never been in his entire life, and you won't convince me that he was fully healthy the last 3 months of the season. Ryan, I know you got to get out of here. Really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. How's Megan doing? With
She's
pregnancy?
good. She's real good. Third trimester is getting ready to start. We just got a crib, so the nursery is almost set up. Spent 4 hours the other night putting the crib together. Things are going well, and we're gonna get her a little bit of exercise today. We're actually heading down to the DC Zoo with a few friends to see the pandas that David Rubenstein brought over for us.
Nice, that's awesome, and we'll have a great time. And I'll tell you, if you're
Yes.
having a little girl, right? If your little girl is anything like my little girl, that crib will not get used. It won't. And when you put them in there, all they will do is scream till you take them out of there. So good luck to you. Glad to hear everything's going well. Tell Megan I send my best, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you sooner rather than later. Enjoy.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you bringing me onto the show again. It's always nice to come back for a little bit.
For sure, man.
Take care.
Appreciate you. Have a great day. I'll see you. Ryan Blake, former co-host of the Bat Around, joining us today to talk some spring training storylines. Another one is Coby Mayo. I want to know how much work did he put in at first base in this offseason. And we know that he's from Florida, so he's been in Florida with nice weather all off season. He's probably already at Sarasota for spring training. Do they still view him as a third baseman at all? And I want to really know, why do they refuse to try him in a corner outfield spot? I can't understand for the life of me when somebody has a 70 grade arm. I don't think he's ever going to work out as a third baseman. I just don't think he has the glove to play third base. I think that he can play first base, but then you're wasting a 70 grade arm. I would love to see Coby Mayo get some run in a corner outfield spot. You look at Cedric Mullins. Mullins is in the last year of arbitration eligibility. He's not getting another contract from the Baltimore Orioles. They've got Enrique Bradfield and Vance Honeycutt in the system, who can play center, who are going to play center field at the big league level. Colton Cowser proved that he can play center field. Tyler O'Neill, if he has a big year, he's not going to be here after the season unless you re-sign him to a better contract. And Heston Kjerstad, I know you don't really trust his glove in the outfield. Why not try Coby Mayo as a corner outfielder? Maybe you already have tried him, and he just looks awful. Maybe he looks like Ryan Mountcastle out there. But for me, I would love to see them give Coby Mayo extended run because that bat you expected to play, especially once now that you move that wall in a little bit. He's got 40 home run potential. And I don't believe for a second he's the player we saw that went, 3 for 42, 4 for 42 in his cup of coffee at the big league level. I would love to see Mayo get some run in the corner outfield spot in spring training. Hopefully it's something he's already been working on. But they keep saying we view him as a corner infielder, not a corner outfielder. So we will certainly see. Today's show brought to you by County Sports Zone. Find every score from every high school sporting event all year long at countysports.zone. Proudly sponsored by your local Toyota dealer and buyatoyota.com. I would say that we would do some viewer interaction right now, but we don't have any chats, and that's on me because I didn't actually properly announce to anybody that the show is airing today at 10 o'clock. And just to kind of give you a glimpse, and we're not making any formal announcement because we still aren't completely sure what we're doing, but I think the plan is to move this show to 5 o'clock on Sundays. Because we're really trying to get a more permanent co-host. And I think 5 o'clock on Sundays works a lot better for people than Saturdays at 10 a.m. People have kids and sporting events. And, maybe you had a long night out on Friday and you're not quite ready to get up at what some people consider the crack of dawn if you're doing a show at 10 a.m. For me, the crack of dawn is literally the crack of dawn 4:30 most days. But if the expectation is to have somebody who can regularly do 10 a.m. on a Saturday, I don't know how realistic that is for people that aren't me. So, the show looks to be moving to a different time slot. That would be 5 o'clock on Sundays. This isn't a formal announcement. It's just something that is potentially in the works. So that's why we don't have a lot of viewership right now, why we don't have any chats in the chat box right now, because we didn't really make an announcement that we were doing the show today at 10 a.m. But you can catch the show at at facebook.com/PressBoxSports or youtube.com/PressBoxOnline. You can go to PressBoxOnline.com/radio, or you can go to SoundCloud and look for the Bat Around there if you want to catch up on the show after the fact. It will be uploaded as soon as the show ends today, and you can catch us there. Another question mark is just this overall lineup for the Orioles as they head into spring training. Can they replace Anthony Santander's production in the aggregate? Can they correct their abysmal showing if I was in scoring position last season? I look at the Orioles on the whole, and we're going to go to their batting splits. We're going to go to their batting splits here and kind of just take a look at what they did with runners in scoring position last year because it wasn't good. They were one of the better teams in baseball last season in 2024 with runners in scoring position. And I kind of look at this team from last year. Why am I having such a hard time finding this? This isn't what I'm looking for. But you look at the team. Where is it? Let's go down and see if it's. I don't know. I can't find it. But they weren't good with runners in scoring position last year. And that really reared its ugly head. Reared its ugly head last season. In the second half and down the stretch. I mean, this is a team that gave up 3 runs in 2 games to Kansas City Royals, and they got swept. They lost 1-0 and 2-1. You scored 1 run in 18 innings of postseason baseball, and it was on a Cedric Mullins home run in the 5th inning of Game 2. And the Orioles immediately gave it right back. So I really look at this team, and are they going to be able to hit better with the runners in scoring position? Are they going to be able to reproduce Anthony Santander's production? Look, Tyler O'Neill's healthy. He's got crazy power. He absolutely mashes against left-handed pitching. They move that wall to attract. I think they moved that wall as much for Jordan Westberg and Ryan Mountcastle as anybody, but I also think they did it to attract free agents like Tyler O'Neill. And if Tyler O'Neill gives you 130 games, he's going to hit 35 home runs. He's got crazy, crazy power. So it's up to the Orioles to keep him healthy. It's up to Tyler O'Neill to keep himself healthy. That means changing his workout routine because the guy's absolutely jacked. He's completely shredded. He's just muscles on top of muscles. And that's, take it from how do I say this without sounding like a douche? I spend a lot of time in the gym. I'm not built like Tyler O'Neill, not even close, but I spend a lot of time in the gym, so I know that working out and lifting heavy produces a lot of injuries. I've got, wonky knees, wonky ankles, weird, not great shoulders because I've lifted heavy for a lot of my adult life. And I'm only saying that because of the fact that I know that when you work out like Tyler O'Neill does, and I'm sure he works out harder than I do, that's what causes a lot of injuries. And when you have 14 IL stints in a 7-year career, it's a good chance it's because of your workout regimen. So we saw Anthony Santander couldn't seem to stay healthy, and all of a sudden he's playing 150-plus games every year because he changed his workout regimen and he learned how to prepare for a 162-game schedule. And hopefully the Orioles have kind of beaten that into Tyler O'Neill's head. He's making $17 million a year from this team, and he's got an opportunity with a big season to opt out and get a huge payday because he's still very young, great outfielder with a ton of power. If he can stay healthy, I'm looking for a big season out of him. So that's how you help reproduce Santander's production, right? And then Jackson Holliday becoming who you think he is as a former number 1 overall pick. Gunnar Henderson taking that next step forward. Colton Cowser progressing even further from his Rookie of the Year his final runner-up for Rookie of the Year campaign. Brian Mountcastle becoming more of that 30 home run threat now with the wall back in a little bit. Jordan Westberg, if he stays healthy, he's gonna hit 30 home runs and drive 100. I am expecting a big year out of him. If Heston Kjerstad proves he was worthy of that number 2 overall pick, there's a lot of guys that can really help this team rebound and move forward after losing Anthony Santander. And look, I loved Santander. Fun guy, ton of power from both sides of the plate. I remember a game against Max Scherzer in 2020 where he took him deep twice. And the Orioles managed to blow a lead in the 9th inning of that game and lose because they sucked back then. But I look at Anthony Santander, loved the guy, but he hit .230 last year with a .307 on base percentage. And he hit third for this team basically every day. You can find a better 3-hitter than that. I expect the 3-hitter to hit .270 with a .340, .350 on base percentage. Is that 3-hitter Jordan Westberg? Is it Gunnar Henderson? Is it Colton Cowser, like Brian Blake said? Is it Jackson Holliday? I expect Jackson Holliday to end up leading off for this team by sometime in June to really replace Anthony Santander's production in the aggregate because of who you have and the expectations of the steps that they're going to take forward in this coming season. It's just a matter of them going out and doing it. Look, spring training starts in 3 days. I know everybody's getting excited. I know people are still down about this team and what they did or didn't do this offseason. They spent $100 million this offseason. They spent a ton of money this offseason on a lot of one-year deals. If I'm looking into my crystal ball, I don't think that the Orioles are adding another pitcher or anything like that. I think that the roster that they have now is a roster they're taking to spring training. And, I'm excited. I didn't expect the Orioles to be a World Series contender in 2023, and then they went out and won 101 games. I think that this rotation might be a little bit better than that rotation that started the season. Not the rotation that ended the season, but the rotation that started the season. Because that rotation that ended the season, they were awesome down the stretch. But look, this team can be really, really good this year. I expect them to make the playoffs. After that, let's win some games. Let's get to it. Let's win a series or two. Make a serious run at a World Series. And when the trade deadline comes, let's not blow that again. Zach Eflin was a nice addition, but you can't be trading guys for Trevor Rush. Now, if when I say guys, I mean like 2 top prospects, right? If Trevor Rogers comes out and shoves this year, he proves that he's closer to the 2021 Rookie of the Year finalist than he was to the guy last year, then he's a great get, and the Orioles win that trade. But he's got to prove that they've got to prove that they won that trade. So let's go. Let's see what this team's got, and hopefully this is a team that ends that 42-year drought for a World Series. So that's going to do it for me on the show today. Today's show has been brought to you by the CIAA Tournament. Baltimore welcomes the excitement of the Food Lion CIAA Men's and Women's Basketball Tournament at the CFG Arena from February 25th to March 1st. You can get your tickets now at Ticketmaster.com. Ton of fun as you're waiting for baseball to kind of ramp up. If you're watching the Super Bowl, hopefully you care more than I do. I'm just interested in seeing the Chiefs lose, and I think they will. Robert Griffin III coming out and saying, if Jalen Hurts wins a Super Bowl, he puts himself in a higher tier than Joe Burrow and Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson. But that team wins in spite of Jalen Hurts, not because of Jalen Hurts. That's like saying that Trent Dilfer's in a different tier than those guys because he won a Super Bowl, and we all know that that's not true. Robert Kirk III, a lot of things he says I like. He put his foot in his mouth with that one. Even still, I expect the Eagles to win the Super Bowl tonight pretty handily. We'll see how that goes. Thanks for tuning in on a weird Sunday to listen to some Orioles talk with me and Ryan Blake. Special thanks to Ryan Blake for joining the show on a busy Sunday for himself. Thank you to all of our sponsors. Without you, we don't have a show. Thank you to all of our loyal viewers, fans, listeners. Without you, we certainly do not have a show. Until next week, see ya!